Have you ever wondered what happens when the lights go out? When you're tucked in bed, safe and sound, and the world outside your window grows quiet? For a young boy named Noah, bedtime wasn't just the end of the day. It was the beginning of an incredible adventure. Every night, a hidden kingdom would awaken right beneath his bed, a world he never knew existed. This wasn't a kingdom of kings and queens you'd read about in fairy tales. It was a realm woven from the forgotten things of a child's room. Lost socks became winding roads, discarded building blocks formed towering castles, and dust bunnies danced like mystical clouds. The shadows themselves seemed to have a life of their own, shifting and stretching into strange, wonderful shapes. This was the kingdom of Underbed, and it was alive. Noah was a boy with a boundless curiosity. He wasn't afraid of the dark. Not really, he was more interested in it. He'd often lie awake, listening to the creaks and groans of the house, imagining what secrets they held. One particular night, while reaching for a toy that had tumbled off his mattress, his hand slipped. He lost his balance and, with a soft thud, tumbled right off the edge of his bed. But he didn't land on the familiar wooden floor. Instead, he found himself sliding down a soft, dusty slope, landing gently in a place that shimmered with a faint, magical light. His eyes widened in amazement. He was in the kingdom of Underbed. All around him were tiny, bustling figures. He saw little warriors clad in armor made from bottle caps, wielding sewing needles as swords. These were the sock soldiers, the dust bunny mages, and the toy brigade, the protectors of the kingdom. And what did they protect? They protected children, like Noah, from nightmares. The kingdom was ruled by a wise and ancient teddy bear named General Fluffington, whose one button I had seen centuries of bedtime battles. He explained that a magical shield, powered by children's happy dreams, had always kept the nightmares at bay. But lately, something was wrong. The shield was flickering, weakening. Cracks were appearing, and through them, dark, shadowy tendrils of fear were beginning to seep into the kingdom. The nightmares were growing stronger, more organized, and they were threatening to break through completely. The residents of Underbed were brave, but they were made of stuffing and thread, plastic and fluff. They fought with all their might, but they couldn't generate the one thing needed to repair the shield, the pure, creative energy of human dreams. That's when all eyes turned to Noah. As a human, a day dweller, he was the source of the very power they needed. The ancient prophecies of Underbed spoke of a child who would one day fall into their world and become their champion. Noah, the curious boy who had accidentally stumbled upon their secret, was their chosen one. At first, Noah was terrified. Him, a hero? He was just a kid who was sometimes scared of what was in his closet. But then he looked at the worried faces of the little warriors around him. He saw their determination and their hope. A small, brave toy knight named Sir Button, with a painted-on smile and a heart full of courage, stepped forward and offered to be his guide. He told Noah that being a hero wasn't about not being scared. It was about being scared and doing the right thing anyway, and so, their epic journey began. Noah, with Sir Button perched on his shoulder, ventured into the uncharted territories of the Underbed Kingdom. Their quest was to find the 3 legendary Dreamstones, ancient artifacts said to hold the power to mend the Great Shield. Their path took them through the labyrinth of lost Lego, a treacherous maze where one wrong step could send you tumbling into a pit of sharp-cornered bricks. They navigated the murky depths of the Soda Spill Sea, a sticky, bubbly ocean where forgotten gummy creatures swam. Next, they had to cross the Whispering Wasteland, a vast expanse of dust where lost memories swirled in the air. Here, Noah heard echoes of his own forgotten fears, the sound of thunder from a storm long ago, the shape of a scary monster from a movie he'd seen. The nightmare sensed his fear and tried to use it against him. Shadowy figures with glowing red eyes began to stalk them, their whispers promising to show him his greatest anxieties. Sir Button reminded him, "They feed on your fear. Noah, you must remember a happy thought." Clutching the little knight, Noah closed his eyes and thought hard. He remembered the feeling of sunshine on his face, the taste of his favorite ice cream, the sound of his mom's laughter. As he focused on these joyful memories, a bright light erupted from his heart, pushing the shadows back. He realized that his own happiness was a weapon. He had the power to fight back, not with a sword, but with his own mind. Their final challenge was the most daunting, the Dream Eater's Cave. This was the source of the nightmare's power, a dark cavern where the leader of the nightmares, a terrifying entity known as the Morpheus Shade, resided. The Shade was a shapeshifter, a being made of pure anxiety. It could take the form of whatever a person feared most. As Noah entered the cave, the Shade transformed into a giant, menacing version of his own shadow, mocking him, telling him he was small and weak. Noah's heart pounded in his chest. He wanted to run, to hide, to go back to the safety of his bed. But then he looked at Sir Button, who stood his ground, his tiny plastic sword held high. He looked back at the entrance to the cave and thought of all the little toy soldiers fighting for their lives, for him. He remembered what Sir Button had said about being brave. Taking a deep breath, Noah stood tall and faced the monster. "You're right," he said, his voice shaking but clear. "I am just a kid and sometimes I am scared. But my friends believe in me, and I believe in them." He closed his eyes again, but this time, he didn't just think of a happy memory. He started to create a new one. He imagined a world where the sun was always shining, where laughter echoed through the air, and where nightmares were nothing more than silly, powerless blobs. He poured all of his creativity, all of his hope, into this vision. A brilliant, golden light poured out of him, far brighter than before. It struck the Morpheus Shade, which shrieked as it dissolved, not in pain, but into a shower of harmless, sparkling dust. With the Shade defeated, the 3 Dreamstones, which the creature had been hoarding, pulsed with renewed energy. Noah, Sir Button, and their allies returned to the heart of the kingdom. They placed the stones back into their pedestals at the base of the Great Shield. A wave of warm, gentle light washed over the entire kingdom of Underbed. The cracks in the shield sealed themselves, and it began to glow with a steady, unbreakable luminescence. The nightmares were banished, sent back to the furthest corners of the subconscious. A huge cheer erupted from the assembled crowd of toys, socks, and dust bunnies. General Fluffington placed a tiny medal, fashioned from a shiny sequin, around Noah's neck. He was a hero, his adventure was over, and the kingdom was safe. As the first rays of morning light began to filter under the door, the magical world began to fade. The toys grew still, the shadows softened, and the castles of blocks looked just like blocks again. Sir Button gave Noah a final, grateful nod before taking his place amongst the other toys. A gentle drowsiness washed over Noah. When he opened his eyes again, he was back in his own bed. The sun was streaming through his window, and the room was filled with the familiar sights and sounds of morning. For a moment, he wondered if it had all been a dream. But then, he felt something small and hard in his pajama pocket. He pulled it out. It was a tiny, shiny sequin medal. He smiled. It hadn't been a dream after all. From that day on, Noah never looked at the darkness under his bed with fear again. He looked at it with a secret smile, knowing that an entire kingdom of friends was down there, keeping watch. And he knew, deep in his heart, that he wasn't just a kid anymore. He was a hero. Thank you so much for watching this story unfold. If you enjoyed this journey into the kingdom of Underbed, don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more magical adventures. Let us know in the comments what you think might be hiding under your bed. See you next time.